Analysis Reporter's Signature Spaces are special episodes created to cover signature projects of architects and designers. This season is happening in association with Amulya Mica. Now, a few words about our esteemed partner, Amulya Mica. Amulya Mica is one of the growing laminate brands in India, a premium brand of Purbanchal Laminates Private Limited. With a vision to build an extraordinary organization, it has presence in more than 24 countries, more than 70 distributors and 3,000 dealers. Today, Amulya Mica is a government-recognized star export house, a renowned name in the Indian laminate industry, and it is emerging as one of the major players in the global market. We will showcase their presentation shortly. In the meantime, let us check out the signature projects.
This is how we basically changed the existing furniture. That whatever furniture we had, we added a light, we changed the tabletop, but we retained the structure. So that in minimal amount, like minimal spending of money, we're able to change the look and feel. Same with the DJ console, same with the booth seating. So this is the overall look that we basically worked on. And we introduced this hanging tables in the center to make it look more interesting, because the name eventually turned into station. It's called Station Bar now. So we wanted to get inspired by the train, where there's like how you have different sections of the train, but it's all elongated in the same line. We wanted the tables to be like that as well. So now if you see, the tables are hanging from the ceiling. This is what we had proposed. The partitions that were there between the walls, we used kind of glass, so that there was some sort of transparency. Otherwise, it would just be a huge private block. So now I'll show you how basically we turned the space. Like this was the bar, and these were the arches that were existing. So we basically introduced the smoky effect, which was in terms of glass, and that was protruding out of the bar front. So we removed this metal gully and we placed these glass sections that were there. And for the back, because the bar back was so limited, we put glass in the bar back so that it gives the illusion of double the number of bottles what we were using. So although keeping one bottle, but because you have a bar back glass, because of that you're giving the illusion of more number of bottles basically. So this is what we did in the bar back. So this is how it looks now. So basically this is a before picture. If you see, these arches were retained, and this is how it looks now, with a smoked glass effect which is protruding out, and there's a bar back glass which gives the illusion of double the number of bottles. And same thing we did with the glass. Like this was more of a jail effect, so we basically tried to do like more of a European kind of a window. So we inverted the windows. So this we did for that. And this is before picture of how the walls were. And this is something that we proposed, like basically this kind of stencil work. And this is how it looks now. Like this is basically the before, this is a render, and this is how the picture looks now, like in terms of the private dining spaces. So basically we are not touching the structure, but we are making it look nicer. And this image that we had is looking like this now. And this is the before picture again of this particular space. And because there were so many columns in the restaurant, and we wanted to make a lighting feature out of those columns so that it looks like a part of the design. So on all those columns, we tried to create these kind of neon lights. So this is the kind of blocking that we did. Like this is the empty shell of the same restaurant, and then we introduced this kind of lighting element on the existing columns. This is the render. This is what we propose of that red place that you saw initially. So basically we've introduced this lighting element in columns, which is going below the beams as well, so that the place starts to look more interesting. Now that red color shaded area that you saw, like this is the old site photo. Like this is the old site photo. And now this whole rustic look now has changed into something like this. So these are the renders of the space that we proposed. And we've changed the lights also to slightly more traditional. This is the train thing inspiration we took, and we made the tables like this. And now the place looks like this. I'm going to share pictures with you of how the site, which used to look like this is how the space looks now. Like these are the real photos of the current situation of how the space looks. Like those arches were retained, the black glass at the back was added, the smoky effect on the mirror was added, these kind of tables were added, and we painted the ceiling blue. So to make it a little more fun and a little more quirky. So this is how the space looks now, and I'm going to be doing next of the pictures so that you can see how the overall place has turned out to be. I think this is how the space looks now. Like these are the actual pictures of the space. Like this is the wall that was there. So we, instead of the circular part, now it's like a rounded arch kind of thing. So that this is more welcoming. Because when you had those kind of pictures, no, like this one, this was slightly raised. So every time anybody would walk into it, and after a few drinks, they would fall down. They would keep falling down. So we reduced this part, and now we turn it into this. Like it's a continuous flow of space, so that there is no falling down even after a few drinks. Because ultimately it's a bar, right? And the PDRs now look like this. So we've retained the whole structure. This is called station bar, and we've basically rectified the partitions with glasses now, which were obviously civil walls earlier, so that there is some sort of transparency. It's not like a big block. It's not blocking the view. I mean, there's still privacy, and you are still connected to the outside area, but there's still some sort of transparency to make it look like a lighter version of what it was. So these are the actual pictures of the site. And the sofas, the furniture, everything is retained. We just basically changed the fabric and the color of the fabric to make it look more happier, brighter, and more vibrant. So the pictures of what you had seen earlier, like this, basically this is how the space looks, and this is the hanging table that we introduced, within the space. And we segregated the flooring also in black and brown to make it look more interesting. So, and this is the DJ console that is there. We added a huge wall clock as well behind, if you see, to make it more fun and more interactive. So this is how the overall vibe turned out to be, like after, basically renovating the space. And all of this basically happened while the project was, like the restaurant was still up and running.
today we talk about Musafir in Houston. So that's the layout of the project. So this is divide. It's a huge floor plate with a front patio and an entrance directly from the ground floor and an entrance from the mall. And so we've divided into multiple zones because it's such a large project. We could not have everything together. So our core was the kitchen and bar, which is primarily in the center of the space. The bar hits the patio, so there's an outdoor bar and an indoor bar, and there is a fairly large, but 600 square feet of kitchen space bang in the center. So so now we've divided into multiple zones. So we have an entrance foyer. So I'll just zoom in so that you understand. So that's how you climb up. That's an entrance foyer that we have. We've shown the video how the space looks like. I'll come to that later. Then there is a passage. Then the main theme of the project was a colonnade. So there's a big colonnade joining the two entrances. So this is the back entrance from the mall. That's the entrance from outside. So the colonnade joins the two entrances, and we yield the project. So there are multiple zones of spaces that we've called Angan, the shadow room. There's a Diwane-Aam, Diwane-Khas. There's a Sheesh Mahal, and there's the patio. So that's how we have got 6-7 zones, and every zone has a different vibe altogether. So then you have to visit the restaurant at least 7 to 8 times to experience the entire restaurant. And then the concept of Musafir was basically of a traveler. So the kitchen team and the chefs actually traveled all around India, and they did a 2-year travel, and then they captured the travel into the space. Our role was very tricky, and we said that this is the research that we have. Now it should have influences from all parts of India. It should not be just one aspect of India, and it has to be a very modern looking space. And the trick is, such large spaces in US, typically Indian restaurants are 2,000 square feet. This is say 10 times larger than that. So it's supposed to be a bar. So the trick is that it has to be a hybrid version of a kitchen and a bar. And so yes, so and the approach was, then we started, and the biggest challenge was we had to manufacture everything here in Delhi, ship it, and then reassemble it there. So there were these Mexican teams who were working in Texas, so they helped us put things together, but we had to manufacture every single bit in India. So this is an image of how the upper images in India and the lower images in Houston. So now getting into details, so we have the foyer, Angan, Diwane-Khas, Sheesh Mahal, Diwane-Aam. There's a veranda that we call, and there's a traveler's room or a dining room that we have a separate zone. And I'm just glimpsing through the project and explaining you how detailed everything has to be. So if these columns that you see are built like Lego units, so they have a metal framework inside, box packed and shipped to US and reassembled. But then there's an extreme amount of kind of pre-engineering to create this look, and so this was manufactured in Delhi by a carpentry team, and then they shipped it and they assembled it there. So this is how that same arch was looking in India, and on the left image it's placed on site. So now you understand how each and every small details really mattered. And just a glimpse of how we started the project. So this is a render of what we wanted, and then we basically looked into every aspect of Indian art and craft. So there was this chatai work, which was like an elephant carved in the bar. So everything was handcrafted in Jaipur and then sent to US and assembled together. So there is like an extreme amount of craftiness to the project. Larger things like a jharoka or an arch was then manufactured in Delhi and shipped there. So we're just showing you glimpses of a render. So on the upper image, this is like a render, and the lower image is like a photograph. So how we converted a render into a photograph, and so these are some more kind of ways that we had processed Every window, every brass, every tip of detail was then built here. Even these small arches, big arches, everything was manufactured here. This was the most challenging part. It's a Sheesh Mahal, which on the left was how we had imagined the space to be. On the right is the construction of the Sheesh Mahal assembled in Jaipur. And on the extreme right, this is how it's positioned there, and this is how it looks like. And again, the challenge was to have this entire mirror work as Lego units, and we had to cut it into smaller sections, create an engineering mechanism where it all joins together there through a nut bolt system and still feels this way. I mean, Sheesh Mahal would have been much, much more easier to execute if you had done it at the same location. But obviously, this level of Tikri craft, which is the broken mirror craft, is not even possible in US, and there's no visa for people. So now the beauty, I'll show you the deconstructed piece of Sheesh Mahal, and this is how things are engineered. I mean, this every corner, every thing has been drawn, cut, processed in terms of a nut bolt system, and then sent. Even the old door is it's an old door from Jaipur that we got, and we had put it together. So one of extreme craftsmanship mixed with an engineering team, where we had to then understand how every bit has to be then broken, and we have a full metal structure above. We had to get fire ratings of everything that we did, because in the US is very strict regarding fire rating of material. So if it's pasted on a ply, I had to get a certification for the ply that yes, it's fire retardant. Even for mirrors, they wanted certification, which is practically impossible. And so that's how we achieved. And this is a way to show that how our craftsmen here were doing things in Jaipur, and then we had put it together and sent it there. People typically ship furniture or walls. We'd ship the room. This was a very interesting room. It's called the shadow room. So the entire effect of the room is actually a shadow. So we had engineered these three pieces, huge pieces of light that throw shadow in the entire room, and then you are dining in a shadow of a light. That's the patio. Patio has very interesting 4-poster beds. 1 second, I think so. So there are 4-poster beds that's converted into an outdoor furniture. This was another bit. So there was this Dokra art wall. So we had to ship all of these Dokra art, converted them into frames and panels, and then that's how it looks like on the site. And it was called the Traveler's Room. So we had created a 14 feet high Musafir sculpture. So this was the initial sketch that the artist gave us, and that was the final output. That's a Sheesh Mahal installed in Houston, and I'm giving you a journey of how the Sheesh Mahal traveled from India to Houston. That's my Diwane Khas, so which is more like a loungy kind of a space. That's the space. And every space looked into the other space. If I zoom into the window, you can see people dining on the other side. So this is just a partition wall between two spaces. That's the colonnade, so that's how all the arches were put together. And this big piece of wood was then sourced from China. We also went to China and did a lot of our lights from China. Unfortunately, we could not do anything else because the certification required was not available in China, so everything was manufactured in India. But a lot of this, like just this solid piece of wood, was then imported from China. That's the level of detail of fabric and Dokra art put together. Even the flooring, this is a terrazzo tile shipped from Bharat Tiles in Delhi, and then we had manufactured. That's the bar, and that's the kind of detail of the bar. So if I just zoom into the detail, this is the degree of detail that we had tried to achieve. So even when you see the carving on the furniture, that matches the carving on the bar. So that's the amount of intricacy, because you can't, every time you see it, you can't experience it. But still, we had to try capture photographs through details of how we can do it. That's the kitchen wall that was assembled in Delhi, then electroplated and sent to Houston. So that became the kitchen surface interface of the kitchen. And that's the sculptor. So we call him the Musafir, and because the project is called the Musafir, so and this is 14 feet high, so it's a fairly kind of tall sculpture. It doesn't look like this in the image, but the roof is 20 feet, and that's why the sculpture is 14 feet, which is double the size of a human. Again, built in Delhi, shipped in US. That's a small cozy lounge that we had created. That's the patio that overlooks the city.
This is a housing project which is for 20 units, small in scale, but the kind of location this was in South Bangalore, the kind of change that we were seeing through the whole time, we started questioning, saying, does housing need to be like you typically see, or through the kind of changes that you would see through the whole decade, is there a way where you can look at landscape taking the forefront, and can architecture and landscape merge together and create something really interesting in terms of the entire built vocabulary? So when I say this, we are also talking about the whole idea of looking at a change in the way people live as well. Typically, when you look at projects that are driven by just architecture, and you say you want to relook at the way the lifestyle of people are when you look at a project like this needs to be relooked from the initial idea itself, which basically meant that all the 2-bedroom homes that you have here, these are all small units, 2-bedroom houses, 20 units in total. We said, can the common spaces or spaces that are driven by activity take a larger forefront? When I say this, we said, can the built form have a lesser forefront or lesser place, and the unbuilt or places where you have multiplicity of activities, or the way you would start using these spaces become so personalized that each one starts finding their own way to look at it. What it also meant is it is giving people an opportunity to relook at these spaces other than your typical bedrooms or the kitchen area, which are generally left untouched. We said, why can't there be a space which sort of connects to the outer space, which is typically your balcony, and it becomes an integral part of an activity that is extremely personal to you. Now, when I say this, it also means that the kind of activities that are driven inside is also connected to the outdoors at multiple levels. Having said that, we said, why can we not start questioning the whole idea of the balconies itself, and can it become productive in terms of the greens? So the whole intent of looking at productive balconies, which in typical formats you would see in normal homes, you would typically have planters or pots, etc. Is that, can we take this to the next level, where it becomes a part of the entire working of the architecture itself? So much so that you start designing the whole structure or the greens in a way where it starts becoming a part of the whole harvest, or something that person who's living there starts deciding the kind of greens that exist. Now, what it also means is the kind of spaces that you talk about has to be designed to suit this, which basically meant that you can't have a typical block that would become a part of it and then you just have the balconies and you keep planters or pots there. So what it essentially also meant is the kind of light that falls into it, the kind of rain, the kind of sun that the greens need to get, needs to go beyond just that. And hence we started finding ways to alter the design itself, which essentially meant that you start shifting balconies, get double height spaces for each home so that you can grow trees there, and the planter boxes, which typically when you see it through a section, instead of seeing it just as a balcony which has a planter, he said, why don't we find ways to integrate soil as a part of it? This also meant that the entire form can now start responding to the requirement of the soil, of the green, then the balconies, and then the activity spaces inside to such an extent that it becomes the form itself. This also helped us evolve the whole structure in such a way that this became a part of the structure rather than an add-on, which also meant that there was no way that you could cut corners or say this may not be done, or it's getting expensive, or it's difficult to maintain and things like that. So it was a fantastic opportunity for us to look at the built form itself taking the shape of a balcony to get the greens in. Now, understanding that the kind of contractors that we were working with, south of Bangalore, tight site, densely populated, and smaller units, meant that the kind of money that would be put in has to be found, has to find multiple ways of using the same materials as well, probably in the same space or in different projects later on. What it also meant is the kind of workings that we had to do had to go beyond just a built form and had to react to the kind of ways we could make it more economical. What it also meant is the kind of people who are working in the project had to be involved to such a deeper level that they don't see it as just a way to earn their source of income, but they start becoming a part of the process itself. This is important for people who like to be driven or people who want to be a part of the whole project, and rather than just sitting as a contractor or a consultant, etc. The contractors started pitching in ideas. That's where we started seeing areas where we started using corrugated sheets and started experimenting concrete, or started using things in multiple ways. One was to find ways to save money by not having paint, textures, etc., etc. And in other words, to find people who are extremely passionate now and driven by the whole idea of architecture and landscape or green balconies. The entire working was done in such a way that the built form started evolving into something like this, and the greens became an integral part of the whole process. Now, over a period of time, we realized that you cannot just sustain it with just the idea. So you need people who are equally involved, or people who are extremely passionate in the same way, and people who take the whole idea ahead. We just found our way to trigger that idea, but you need people who will take it ahead. Now, we also realize that if we are pitching in an idea to the country, saying this is an experiment to find ways of integrating architecture and landscape, is there a way where we can also become a part of it to such a level that we also took a unit there, we called it Shunyo. So we said, why don't we take a place and find a way to look at our way of how we could respond to that space. To continue the whole idea where the built form reacts to the kind of people who are living in, we realize that if we take a unit there, it's a fantastic opportunity for us to see if we are able to experiment at a deeper level as well. What it essentially meant is we wanted to become a part of the whole process and complete the whole circle, rather than just finishing a project at the built form and moving out of it saying that was our job. Now, what it also meant is if you're looking at the plan, we realized that it also needs to question the way people are living. The first thing that we had in mind when we took this unit was to question the whole idea of the spaces itself, where instead of looking at a typical living, dining, utility, kitchen and bedrooms, etc., he said, is it possible to sort of break this down only into two entities? One is the public space and the private space. What it essentially meant is the kind of spaces that you have in the common areas can be integrated as one, which basically would mean that the built form now connects more openly to the outdoors, rather than having multiple walls in between, multiple spaces in between, which were initially planned as activity spaces. What it also meant is the kind of connect that you start having with the outdoors becomes so strong that we started experimenting with materials which are originally part of the whole idea of the whole building being in concrete, which eventually saw the brick or the terracotta becoming a part of it to scale the whole process or the whole project down. It was also a way to get a warmer sense for the building, which was otherwise quite strong in terms of its typology of the form itself. We took this whole idea of integrating the concrete into the whole building in such a way that even the furniture or every space that you would see inside were all crafted by the same people who are associated with us on the project, and every space started reacting to the outside rather than becoming an individual space of sorts inside. What it also meant is allowed us to start experimenting with the two most important materials of the project, that's concrete and brick, which is outside in the balconies for us, and the greens that become a part of it eventually. The whole build form, which was typically planned to be designed as private spaces and public spaces, also meant that it was important to see how the house itself reacts to this. What we're trying to say is we realize that the house or the home has a life of its own as well, and there's a story for each house to tell. So when you look at spaces that are indoors, there is a day space to it, and there is an experience that you see at night, which is more esoteric, and the kind of connect that you start having with the way the light falls changes drastically. So what you typically see as an indoor-outdoor connect during the day changes into a very different space at night, where the kind of lighting that was planned, the kind of spaces that were conceived starts reacting differently at night and starts allowing you to start using these spaces into a very different manner. What you typically assume a home to be starts becoming a space that is extremely driven by activities, sometimes friends coming over, sometimes people who like to be alone by themselves, want to take up something to read, or you want to cook, or find your way of connecting to art, where every art piece in the whole project was also crafted by us, by our whole studio, who became a very important part of the whole project, wanting to make sure that we complete the whole circle by not just designing the structure, but taking a place there, finding a way or a reason to live there, and completing the whole process or the circle by adding more greens than you typically would have got in a project where you would have just left the land as it is. So that's our project Vanam and Shunyo, which is an important part of the whole process.
We are halfway through and it's time to showcase the remaining projects. But before that, let us watch the presentations from Surfaces Reporter's Signature Spaces partner, Amulya Maika.
ये कहानी है एक सपने की। सन 1997 में पूर्वी भारत के आंचल से निकला एक सपना पश्चिमी छोर पर स्थित गुजरात की गोद में जा बसा। मानो पहाड़ों को चीरती एक नदी समंदर से जा मिली हो। ये कहानी है उसी सपने की जिसने करोड़ों घरों को बनाया सपनों का मंदिर। ये कहानी है उसी सपने की जिसने ऑफिस को बनाया एक ड्रीम डेस्टिनेशन। स्वप्न दृष्टा श्री राकेश अग्रवाल का ये सपना श्री बनवारीलाल अग्रवाल के मार्गदर्शन में आज उभरा है एक अद्वितीय हकीकत बनकर। अमूल्य घर सजा साथ निभा। वर्ष 2004 में अमूल्य माइका लेमिनेट्स की स्थापना के साथ शुरू हुआ भारत के घर घर को सजाने का एक सफर। 2017 में अमूल्य WPC भी बना इस सफर में साझेदार। चेयरमैन श्री ओम प्रकाश अग्रवाल तथा मैनेजिंग डायरेक्टर्स श्री राकेश अग्रवाल, श्री मुकेश अग्रवाल और श्री गिरधारी लाल डोकनिया की लीडरशिप में आज सिर्फ 15 साल की छोटी सी अवधि में अमूल्य बना है लाखों घरों के इंटीरियर्स की जान और हजारों ऑफिसेज की नई पहचान। ये 15 साल पूर्वांचल के लिए था अमूल्य को महज एक स्टार्टअप से लेकर एक ब्रांड के तौर पर स्थापित करने का सफर। कुछ गिने चुने प्रोडक्ट से लेकर 600 डिजाइन्स, और 100 फिनिशेस की क्षमता हासिल करने का सफर। एक छोटी सी वर्कफोर्स से लेकर 29 स्टेट्स, 400 से ज्यादा शहर, 70 डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर्स, 3000 से ज्यादा डीलर्स, और 130 से ज्यादा सेल्स पर्सन की एक फौज तैयार करने का एक सफर। गांधीधाम की एक छोटी मैन्युफैक्चरिंग यूनिट से अमूल्य को 20 से ज्यादा देशों तक ले जाने का सफर। आज अमूल्य देश के सबसे तेजी से बढ़ रहे लेमिनेट्स उत्पादों में से एक है। इसीलिए तो भारत सरकार से अमूल्य ने पाया है एक्सपोर्ट हाउस स्टेटस। और तो और आए दिन अमूल्य को मिलते रहते हैं विशेषतम पुरस्कार। और ऐसा हो भी क्यों नहीं। सुपीरियर टेक्नोलॉजी से लेकर ए ग्रेड रॉ मटेरियल, लेमिनेट्स की बेजोड़ क्वालिटी प्रदान करने के लिए प्रोडक्शन के एक एक पहलू पर अमूल्य करता है नो कॉम्प्रोमाइज। पर्यावरण और अपनी कॉर्पोरेट सोशल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी की ओर भी है अमूल्य पूरी तरह से जागृत। और अमूल्य की सफलता का राज हमारे वर्कर्स, हमारे डीलर्स और हमारे कस्टमर्स का प्यार। उनका प्यार ही तो है जो रहा है हमारी सफलता का सच्चा साझेदार। आइए फिर एक बार एक नई इनिंग्स में फॉर्म करते हैं एक नई पार्टनरशिप।
साथियों, हम निकले थे अकेले, कारवां बनता चला गया। आज मुझे गर्व है कि आप सब भी मेरे साथ जुड़े हुए हैं। मैं इस बात पर यकीन रखता हूं कि यदि आपका साथ मिलता रहा तो हम अपने मंजिल पथ पर बढ़ते चलेंगे, बढ़ते चलेंगे।
हम और अमूल्य, आइए घर बनाए, घर सजाए। अमूल्य घर सजाए, साथ निभाए।
would like to discuss about one of my high-end salon projects, which is at Surat. It's Share Hair and Beauty Lounge. The site is basically located at the Godar Road, which is a premium lifestyle hub of the Surat. It's basically a 2,500 square feet of carpet area on the first floor of G+5 structure. We are associated with this particular brand Share because we have designed there another salon in Ahmedabad. So we were all aware about all the requirements and the classicity of what client is having. So the simple requirement he has given, like what he wants is the luxurious salon, and the very spacious and simplicity should be there. And as we believe that the design should be clutter-free and user-friendly, and that has to be the aesthetic appeal without compromising on anything else. So, and while designing this salon, we keep it the simplicity of that thing, and we focus on the three principles of the functionality, practicality, and comfort should be there. Because after all, nowadays the beauty salons there, people not come for just the beauty treatment. They spend at least an hour to get relaxed and rejuvenate themselves. So while designing all this salon, we consider all the aspects from that also. And by taking that idea, we decided to give the luxurious retreat to this salon. And for that, we took the Roman arches and vault as a main design element, because we believe that Roman arches always bring beauty in their simplicity and elegant look. As soon as you enter in the salon, you are welcome with this bold reception area, which is in the black reception counter and the fuchsia pink and the green Chesterfield sofa. Like we mentioned, like I already mentioned that we took the Roman arches for the entire salon, and we carry for in all the aspects, like even for the reception area, we kept this display counter in the Roman arches. By keeping that, we kept all the material palette very simple and elegant by using big slab of tiles, teak wood panels, and all the like customized texture paint on the wall. This entire salon are divided in the four zones, like the reception and lounge, makeup, hairstyling, and shampoo station, manicure, pedicure station, and beauty area, like beauty area in considering the body spa area and the bridal room, and rest of the areas are in the restroom and storage area. When you're looking at this picture, we started the designing with this arch and vault in the ceiling area, where the floor and ceiling wall paneling are seamlessly curved in the intersection with the meeting points in between the wall and ceiling. In this particular image, you can see the particular hair section. The series of arches we have set for the mirror and the product display as well. From the reception, you just step into this hairstyling area, which is very spacious and luxurious as well. And that was the client's requirement. He wanted to have the very spacious, luxurious feel and should not be clutter-free in any way. For this salon, another main element and the signature mark I would say we use is this wall ceiling in the passage area. And in for particular wall ceiling, we've used the unconventional this lighting system, which is indirect lighting, and which gives very much depth to the entire space. So wherever the passages are there, we have used this wall ceiling. This particular area is for the shampoo station. It creates a very good atmosphere with the customer also. I already mentioned this intersection point with the ceiling and walls with the arch and the wall ceiling. The body spa area is completely black from the floor and walls. The only highlight point is the ceiling with the wall ceiling and indirect light. What we have customized on site. This particular area is designed for the nail bar. The nail bar and the manicure pedicure section is the club area. The one side is you can see the nail bar, and the other side is this jacuzzi with the pedicure station. Body spa area, we keep it very simple, just to have the gray color even for the floor, wall, and the white ceiling, nothing else, because where the people can come to rejuvenate, to relax. So we didn't want to give any color, just to have the simple lighting system and no color in between, and just to highlight the space. We have the the backlist poster from the brand. This particular area is for the bridal area, where we've done all the things, no arch, very keeping it very simple with the lighting system, even no wall ceiling, no arch, nothing. To just give this bar lighting with the round mirror. I mentioned this the Roman arch and walls for the main design element, and the beauty of this Roman arch you can see from the outside also when at the night time, particularly when it's lit up everything, and you can see the salon from inside, from the outside. It gives a very good vibe, and it creates a drama from outside also.
Coffee house in New Town, it has a reference to the Indian coffee house. As you all know, that Indian coffee house was created by people pre-independence days as a answer to the high tea culture of the British officers, where they were not allowed, the Indians were not allowed to join. So the coffee houses around the country, say it is in Bombay, it is in Trivandrum, it is in Kolkata, these became a hotbed of cafe culture along with a groundwork for intellectuals, activists, artists to influence. Coffee house in Kolkata carried down the legacy post-independence also, where it became the hotbed of the leftist movement. It was established as Albert Hall in 1942, and it is in the premium education hub of Kolkata, the University of Calcutta, Presidency College, Medical College. And it's a very fun and a very intense, it's equally fun, equally intense meeting point for all types of people, students, writers, poets. A lot of senior poets could be seen spending their time there. So what happened that when we were asked to design this in this coffee house in New Town, where it is situated within the education hub. It has the Amity University just in front of it. It has NUJs, it has Presidency, it has. So we wanted to bring the flavor of the coffee house from the central part of Kolkata to the main education hub. So we wanted to create a contemporary cafe while retaining the atmosphere with the legendary coffee street, College Street Coffee House. So this is a HITCA project, though it's a government project. Still, the clients were responsive. They wanted to do something new. They helped us a lot with their enthusiasm. And this project was done in a very short time. Basically, this is the, I will take one, this is the finished coffee house at New Town. This was started with a initial, this is the existing coffee house view of the Kolkata Coffee House in College Street. And this was the brief that was given to us that do something along the lines of the coffee house, keep a flavor of the coffee house, but also give some colonial and old Kolkata look to it. So we did both. We took the interiors on the line of the coffee house, and on the exterior we took some features from the classical British architecture from the central part. So now we go into the planning part. The planning part is basically similar to the it holds the cafe part. There's one small library, and there's an open air podium dining, and there's also a part in the front where you can extend the dining uh, when required. And the kitchen is at the back. There are toilets, office, food, the ancillary. So at the first floor, there's just a gallery at the side, which is used both for dining, a cafe, and also some music performance which are done from time to time. So if you see the interior of the project from above, this is the vision. We will come to this in more detail later. So this is from the first floor podium, first floor gallery. So every part of it was designed very precisely. We tried to keep balance between the modern and the traditional, yet we used materials which are unique, materials which are not readily used at every point, but still we kept the balustrades, the jaffrey, the colonnades, and all those things. We try to keep that as it is. There's the jaffrey and the column. This was designed uh, and it was executed from Hyderabad. And this is in the peak lockdown season. Still, we managed to do this, and it has come up wonderful. This pattern of the Jaffrey is also replicated in the inside, which we will show later. So you can see that every part of the build form was designed precisely. The railings were designed, the Jaffreys were designed, even the balustrades were designed to this level. We took everything, and a classic concept in Kolkata is a rock concept, like it's an Adda space, which is a high podium type of a thing where people spend their evening or in late afternoon. There is a typical which again we try to keep in our architecture. As you can see, there's the section of the coffee house where you can see the stairs going up, and there's the upper floor level. And this is the ground floor cafe area. The structure of the coffee house is very unique because we had to do a lot of brain rattling on that because the spans were quite high with the concrete roof on top. We are happy to say that this design has been published in 2-3 structural magazines. Another thing that is very important that we have done this. There's a famous cartoonist from Kolkata, who is now settled in Australia. This is Michael Elliott. He created an entire plethora of the culture of Bengal around the coffee house thing. The lifestyle of Kolkata with the puchkawala, with the puja, with all those things. Another thing is very important that coffee house has been a subject of a lot of songs in Bengali songs. So one song depicts a friendship of a group of people from Manna De. There's a group of people who have assembled along a table in coffee house, in the original coffee house, and how life goes about with them. So this also has been depicted in this picture. We have taken few from that, and these are full height ardalis. These were old ardalis which can be found in the original coffee house. So we have kept that flavor also as standalone. So this is also the flooring pattern is done in a colonial type, the colonial graphical layer. There's a mosaic patterns were done previously, and the central figure of the filigree has also been replicated in the wooden fit out and jaffries and all those things. And there is the first floor staircase going to the gallery, and there is a small library. This is basically Newtown being a smart city and a new city. There are not many amenities around the place. So what happened? We have already made a library in Newtown, which is run by DCL at this coffee house has been a big hit.
The brief, or as I should say the idea behind the project was its name, the word poker face, which talks about duality, which is rooted on the concept of duality, visible yet hidden, classical yet contemporary, and dark yet colorful. When creating this concept, we wanted to make sure that it should strike the best first impression for the user. The layout, which you can see on the screen, was derived out of this thought process, where all the collaborators involved in the design phase, clients and us as our designers, everyone wanted bar to be the unique focal point of our design. And this should be the first thing the customers should see when they enter. So the bar was placed just in front of our main entry. We have designed the group, so the bar, so this is our first impression when you come and visit the restaurant in the mall. This is our main shop front, and bar is visible from the gate when you're moving in the restaurant. The second thing which we emphasized on was what is the impression of a customer in terms of sitting spaces when they enter the restaurant. So what we took was 3 different lines of seating done in a different sizes where patron can be accommodated as per their requirement. There was one as a family dining space, there was one as a casual dining space, and the other was a low dining space. So the casual dining space was done on the right-hand side wall, and the informal dining space was done on the opposite side of it. Both were done in a 2 different style. The casual one was much more electric and contemporary, and the formal was one much more classical. And the central ones were the high seats, which was done in a very casual manner to accommodate friends coming over for a party. The bar was the main focus, and it was designed in such a format that the person who's coming should see it as the first thing, and this was done by raising the bar on a level and highlighting it with a line of with an arc done with a lining of electric Edison bulbs. So the axis was designed with a combination of variable sitting options, as I discussed, and the bar counter was the focus. Bar back was carefully designed with a fluted glass back, which was done in a format that they bring in more natural light during the daytime, and they can be a backlit option highlighting both bar and booze at the night. The bar stage was further divided into two premium sitting spaces done on either side, which was a sitting space when required and can be converted into a stage for performance on days of live performances. And the same was highlighted with a big crystal chandelier over it. The front of the bar was a long seat which can accommodate a big party, a patron size where they are coming in for a big party or a family gathering. These are the images of the premium seatings converted into a stage for a musical evening or for a live comedy session. The bar space or poker face was designed to accommodate both dining experiences and huge big parties on New Year and Eve like that. So this is one image of the New Year Eve at the same space. So it's all about Instagram nowadays, and the customer are looking for something unique and fun when they are there in the space where they can click selfies and upload them on their Instagram handles or Snapchats. Highly engaging for customers to have fun and a brand advocate as well. This space was created with a combination of various such walls. So our bar was the focus point, and the bar was lined up with a Dante painting called Divine Comedy. So this was a painting done just above the bar. It has 100 world personalities arranged in a manner. The other wall, which is on the right hand side of the wall, was a wall where we had a neon signage talking, saying who's your daddy, and lined with frames from with different personalities from the world. And it becomes a very good place where people take pictures. The other was a graffiti of our logo. And the focus wall, which was other than the bar wall, was a wall just at the end of the cafe, which houses the kitchen at the back. And it was a wall done with a green wall at the backdrop and Oscars floating in the air, highlighted with the light below them. We also used poker face in a very literal term with its connect to a word called poker. So the idea of poker, for some people, it's identified as a place where you can play poker, but that's not the idea. But we use that name and use those cards as a highlight in our spaces. So in our classical theme space, we use the poker face cards, and they form the frames behind our family dining space. The same thing was done into a graphic and was used at the end, at the lift lobby of the mall, where you enter the mall on this particular floor. So there, this wall was done as a big jolly wall with 3 poker cards as their backdrop, where people can come and click pictures. So poker face, also the space which is used for your birthday parties and all, has been designed in a format that they accommodate families. Electric vibe, music and dance is the core theme of the space, and the same has been highlighted at various points. The DJ, which was housed just above our kitchen service entry, has a good view of the space from the DJ station. Different types of lights and fixtures were used to highlight the whole space in different formats, and the lights have a possibility of getting changed with every mood. Yeah, this is poker face. Thank you.
That was superb. Surfaces Reporter thanks all the architects and the designers for sharing their beautiful signature spaces. We shall be back again with another episode of SR Signature Spaces with Amulya Maika. Stay tuned to meet our guests. Then you can subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram.